all the healthcare warriors. A big thank you, a pillar of strength like a tree cashew. Your work dynasty saving life fearlessly. I dedicated this line to all the dignitaries present among us. I, Faizan Sayyed, the host for the evening, feel very pleasure to welcome you all to the prestigious webinar. This webinar is designed to enhance and appreciate some wonderful personalities in the field of healthcare. Gautam Buddha has said to keep the body in good health is a duty. Otherwise, we shall not be able to keep our mind strong and clear. You all are the one who regulate his job of maintaining proper health among us. We all know the world is suffering from very tough days, and you all are every day putting efforts, determination, and courage to eradicate the current pandemic. Not only you, but your family members stood towards you like pillars. Hence, we are the Asia GCC Conference and Awards organized by Pharma Global Management Services for honoring you for the contribution in the field of healthcare. Once again, welcome you all to the most prestigious webinar. Moving further, now I call upon Dr. Fareem Khan, Chairperson, Asia GCC Conclave, Chief Editor, Great Brand Magazine, co-founder and CFO Golden Aim Awards for welcome speech. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Sayed. Good evening and welcome you all to the Asia DC Conference and Award for the Excellence and Leadership in Healthcare. This is Fareem Khan, CFO and co-founder of Golden Aim, Chairperson Asia GCC Awards. I first of all like to apologize for not sharing my video as I'm traveling due to some emergency, so I am not sharing my video. And I would like to thank to all the participants, the speaker and other guests present in the event for bracing this occasion. The objective of the award is to recognize and felicitate healthcare professionals who have demonstrated outstanding contribution in their respective field across Asia and Gulf Cooperative Council. This is the day to acknowledge, recognize, salute, and pay tribute to the selfless and unconditional services that has been rendered by the medical fraternity, particularly the frontline healthcare workers who have placed their own lives at risk to save several other people out there. Several thousands of doctors have been infected and sadly few have lost their lives also. And this is a perfect day for the doctors to stand our community together to rebuild the lost trust and ensure we continue to save lives. Your contribution and the hard work deserves our gratitude each and every day. And today I'm very pleased to connect with the best healthcare professional experts. Each award winner will be felicitated by a trophy and a wooden citation as a memento. Moving further, I request Professor Sayed to continue with the webinar ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wholehearted welcome. Now I call upon Mr. Azharuddin Farooqi, Managing Director, Pharma Global Management Services, founder and CEO, Energetic Business Solutions, to speak few words. Over to you, sir.
Good evening to everyone. I, Azharuddin Farooqi, the Managing Director of Pharma Global Management Services and a CEO of co-founder of Energetic Business Solutions. It's both an honor and the privilege to stand before you and welcome you all to this prestigious webinar, Asia GCC Conference and Awards. I express my gratitude to all the professionals present in today's webinar. I like to thank all the physicians and the healthcare professionals on this call today for your hard work, thoughtfulness, and commitment during this challenging time. Among these heroes who have emerged from their crisis, all the healthcare professionals who have risked their own life to save their patients. The nation is in debt to you. As we move forward, we know that the pandemic is continue to evolve and healthcare community must continue to deliver high quality of care to their patients. Fortunately, we have made significant progress in our understanding for this disease, our ability to combat it, and our efforts to help patients suffering with it. And my company, the Pharma Global Management Services, we are providing services in various segments and sectors. We are in garment business, in real estate, electronic business. We have chain in fitness academy, and we provide end-to-end management solutions. We start our business in 2004 with a small warehouse in Mumbai, and with the team support, we build our business national to international level. We have our chain in Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, Bengaluru, and internationally from Dubai, Oman, and Indonesia. And I hope to build more chain in future. And I'm very thankful to Asia GCC team and Dr. Fareen Khan to give us the chance to be a partner of this prestigious webinar, the platform where professionals and thought leaders share their views and knowledge. And congratulations to all the awardees and best of luck for the evening. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we move on to our conference ceremony. And our first respected speaker is Dr. Nirmal Surya, President, Indian Academy of Neurology. And sir's topic is digital transformation in neurology. Over to you, sir.
First of all, thank you very much for having invited me to speak in this forum today, which is honoring the health worker across the Asia. And I'm indeed grateful to you all for having invited me. And as a part of Indian Academy of Neurology, I feel that we really need to reach out to all those COVID warrior, not only the doctors, but the paramedics who has been working for last 2 years and still continue to work. And this difficult period, which is not yet over, and we do not know what is going to happen in next couple of months. So therefore, it is a challenging time, and we have to adapt to this challenging time. And what best, we have really adapted to digital health. And I'm just going to share you a few things in next few minutes about how digital transformation has happened and what is my experience per se in neurology in past 2 years to change the neurology services during this COVID time. So good old times, you all know doctor-patient relationships is very crucial. Doctor is supposed to be part of the family. In the village, nothing would really happen without asking to the doctor. Doctor would be there in each and every decision of every family. The prescriptions were non-digitalized. Many times they were only written on some of the papers. The treatment were isolated, sometimes some testing, some medicine, or the investigation. But patient has to come back with all these reports after maybe 2 days, 3 days. And then the data, there were no data being recorded. So this is the changing work experience which has been happening. Table A is good olden times and table B is the digital thing. You could see that good diagnosis and treatment, clinicians were excellent, patient care was very good, hospital admissions were done, good references, clinical outcome, CME conferences were physical, patient was loyal to the doctor, and there's a huge bonding between doctor and patient. But in addition to this, what has changed is now data record keeping and privacy. Medical legal issues has come up. Integrated healthcare we are talking about. Healthcare insurance has become big. Insurance are the big player. Telemedicine practices come back in these last 2 years. Digital health we are talking about, and we are also talking about patient outcomes, patient experience, and social media has become prominent. So it is helping people. It has got both positive and the negative effect. We are not going to talk about that. And there are a lot of technological innovation which has happened in the healthcare. If you look at the technology, which is eating every industry, and if you look at the top 5 revenue-wise companies in from 2006, which was not technology. Only one of the company like Microsoft was in the technology company, which is leading the industry. But look at 2021, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, and Facebook. So these are the five major players which has come up in the industry. And that shows that how the mindset has gone up. And if you look the technology adaptation by the society, look at the WhatsApp. WhatsApp has become a major source of communication nationally as well as internationally, followed by Facebook, Gmail, Twitter, and Skype. And if you look at the category-wise unicorn companies, and you look at the billionaires, these are the two companies, FinTech and Internet software and services. So technology is changing and it all has become digital. And therefore, when you are looking at healthcare challenges in India, you're looking at less than 2 million doctors to serve 1.37 billion people, which is all specialty put together. 70% plus Indian population is habituated in rural India, while approximately 80% medical specialty are settled in urban India. So there are resources are limited, and there's a big difference between the availability and the reality. High disease burden, especially for NCD, and lack of specific treatment further contribute to the disease burden, mortality, morbidity, and ultimately disability. And there is no concept of disability. And there are geographic challenge, length and breadth of the country, and no or limited record keeping or data analytic on prevalence, diagnosis, or treatment of disease, limited future research or policy shaping on the disease management. So these are real health challenges which are there. So why digital healthcare? So we have COVID-19, which is a public healthcare emergency, high cost of travel to seek medical care. Patient has to travel. We're getting patient coming out from Middle East, Africa. But if this is digital health, they can be very, very low cost. Access to specialty doctors from remote area, which is possible, and convenience for patient and caregivers. So everything is plus. So if you look why we have no data in our country, patient per doctor ratio is 1:1,000. So, you know, as a doctor, I don't have much time to see all the patients. I've got overflooded appointment. I have barely been able to manage 25, 30, 40 patients. Where is my time to enter the data into the computer? And where I have the technology trained and resources to have everything is computerized. So there are very few people who could do that, who could see the limited number of patients. Then most of the doctors are friendly with handwriting, because if I have to type, I might take time. And we are not from the young generation who was very quick in typing. So we would want handwriting, which is not digitalized today. So therefore there is a problem. And majority of hospitals, individual clinic, doctor find convenient to write the medical treatment OPD. So paper remain non-digitalized and hence no data. Though I must say that things are changing. Many of the major corporate hospitals have started digitalizing and have the data. These are some of the digitalization platforms which are available, which is a smart pen, treatment paper, tab. So you are communicated. So now during COVID time, many of us are supposed to use one of these platforms. Some of them may be hybrid smart pen, desktop printer software combo, or tab iPad mobile software. So these are the various things which we have been using. The cost varies from 15,000 to the 75,000. So depending on doctor's convenience, his expertise, and his easiness to use the particular software, they have been utilized. So what look good? Telemedicine is going to stay. Simple to use platform with hands-on experience is going to be key. Platform should be customized for each specialty. Interoperability and feasibility on integration with other devices. So, you know, if I have iPad, I can do it on iMac also. I can go to desktop, or I can use it on iPhone, or if I have an Android, I can use it on my laptop, Android phone, or the tab. So this is multiple platform is what is going to make work. Eye contact enabled with your patient, that will help the patient to know that you are talking to him and improve your patient experience inside and outside clinic. So summarizing the digitalization, this data secured on cloud, data analytics, audio instruction. So when I'm giving a patient prescription, so I've got a digital prescription, digital pen, I write on the prescription, I record my voice, I give the instruction to the patient, I click it, so the recording goes to the patient, so he can later on download my prescription. He can listen to me. There are appointment reminders can go, and we can connect with other providers. Like I can send them to laboratory, MRI, or the pharmacy also can be communicated. So this is a new phase of evolving healthcare. You can have on-site examination, use of technology to maintain the record. There's a telemedicine, and there is an incremental paradigm shift in the healthcare accessibility. So digital health is here to stay. And look at the you hear, listen to the Mr. Modi, our Prime Minister, and this quote: "I dream of a digital India where quality healthcare percolates right up to the remotest region, powered by e-healthcare." And I think this will be a reality by 2030. And these are some of the apps which Government of India has also made. There is a telehealth, etc., which are also there. So you have various technology available to remotest part. So what is summary of changing scenario? If you look at old days, good stethoscope, good diet, home hospital, home, go to pathology lab for the test, go to hospital for ICU admission, bring the file in next visit. But you look at now, good digitalization platform, good health record, home, mobile, iCloud, patient, or patient lab goes to patient's home. You create an ICU at home, and you have all your health records sent on your mobile. So you need not carry any file. Your mobile becomes the file. So these are some of my digital journey. E-consult done over 18 months in this, about 1,000 patients, and total seminars in 18 months are done more than 500. So virtually every day we have been doing 2 or 3 webinars alternate day. These are some of the digital paper which we have worked out, the teleneuro rehabilitation. So teleneuro rehabilitation also has come up big way in the India and other low middle income countries. This is a frontier paper which is available to you. And our own work, in the next few minutes, I will just explain you how Epilepsy Foundation has worked out during the lockdown of last 18 months. So we have online activities which we done from May onward. Free consultation continues during lockdown. We have music classes, counseling, physio, OT, cognitive therapy, and yoga. All this was done every day on Zoom platform for 2 to 3 hours throughout the lockdown. So if you look at our consultations in last 1.5 years, that is May 2020 to November 21, we had music session attended on Zoom by 156 people with epilepsy, craft workshop by 230 people with epilepsy, teaching classes by the 30 people, 30 young students. A neurology consultation was done on Zoom was 1,484 and 895. So when the hybrid started from August onward, we started doing both. The psychological counseling for 263 patients, the craft workshop which was happening. Beside the craft workshop on Monday, the Wednesday also another 124 patients, physio, OT, nearly 300 to 500 patients, cognitive therapy for 800 patients, and yoga session attended by nearly 1,000 patients. So this is all online, which is we have created. So you could see this is a music class, and these are the patients with epilepsy teaching the people with epilepsy. And these are the Ganesh R3 or something which has been going on. I'm going to play various videos. And this is the online consultation, which is initially hybrid, you would see with the PPE and then online, all other patients attending. So few patients in the clinic, rest all on the online. This is the counseling which has been done. And this is a craft classes, which has been again on Zoom. A young student, they have learned how to have the Zoom etiquettes, and they learn. This is physio and the OT, both has been every Thursday. And this is the cognitive therapy by the neuropsychologist, again on the Zoom platform, one-on-one, and then this. So we found that medicine was the biggest challenge. So we created a adopt a person with epilepsy, and we could adopt nearly 500 to 800 patients in different part of the Maharashtra. This patient is from Chandrapur, and these patients started, we would send the medicine to them. And so by now we have sent these medicine to many of these patients. And we also adopted the Asha Bhavan, one of the ashram sala with mentally retarded patient, with people with epilepsy. So about 30 patients were adopted. We would see them every month and send the medicine to them so that they can be taken care. We also followed the International Yoga Day, and nearly 80 to 90 people attended, again online. And you could see that this has worked very well. We had World Brain Day celebration with Indian Academy of Neurology and World Federation of Neurology and MDSI, and this was also successful. We could also connect to the Africa, and Gandhi Jayanti was celebrated with 9 African Association on Epilepsy, and we could have a joint program which is been attended by IB President and Vice President of Africa of IBE and various Consul General from the Africa to felicitate and support the epilepsy care program, again online, which would work. So things are going to work. We have been adapting. Our patient has been adapting. So many of my patients with epilepsy, young, with mental retardation or with cognitive disability has come to the term. And I think in coming years, the technology is definitely one plus to the doctor. So we would have add-on as a technology, and we would be much more smarter and giving a better care to the people with epilepsy or people with other neurological disorder. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for sharing your kind support to the organization. I request the team to share a thank you memento on behalf of the complete organization.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Now we move on to our second respected speaker for the event. Our second respected speaker is Dr. P.A.M. Kunju, President, Neurological Society of India, Kerala. And sir's topic is Botox in cerebral palsy. Over to you, sir.
First of all, I must thank the organizers, Asia GCC conference, for inviting me to this. I'm happy to be a part of this program where Dr. Nirmal Surya, the president of Indian Academy of Neurology, is participating. And I am representing Neurological Society of India, Kerala chapter, where when the Indian Academy of Neurology is the organization of neurologists of India. Neurological Society of India is the organization where the neurologists and neurosurgeons are joining hands. And I am the chairperson of its Kerala chapter. And for the last 9 months, we were organizing a digital webinar for the postgraduates of neurology as well as neurosurgery every week, with case presentations as well as lecture series. And it is being accepted not only in Kerala, but throughout India, and I have seen a number of people attending abroad also to those conferences. Today, I'll be presenting my experience of role of botulinum toxin in cerebral palsy. For the last 21 or 22 years, we are using botulinum toxin for the management of cerebral palsy. All of you know that cerebral palsy is a disease where increase in tone, that spasticity is a major problem. And what you are seeing here is a child with a severe spasticity and adductor spasm. So most of the time, this spasticity may be a hindering problem, and so the child will not have its complete potential for the development. And for that, we all know that there are a lot of treatment modalities are available. And the one which we have seen was a diplegic type of cerebral palsy. We can have a hemiplegic type of cerebral palsy also, as well as quadriplegic cerebral palsy, chorioathetoid cerebral palsy. This is an early diagnosis of cerebral palsy by just demonstrating a cover test by covering the face and the child. We can see that using only one hand for removing it. Usually the child will be using both the hands for removing it. And then once the child has developing this sort of a spasticity, the spasticity can lead to a lot of problems, because especially limiting of the functional capacity, leading to the contractures, fixed contractures, osteoporosis, decrease in muscle strength and function, respiratory infections, thrombophlebitis, cardiovascular problems, decubitus ulcers, bladder and bowel problems, social isolations, etc. So because of these problems, and moreover, the muscle is under tension. Because of this, the muscle cannot grow, but the bone continues to grow, and relative muscle shortening leads to that fibrosis. So if you continue with physiotherapy alone, dynamic contracture will progress to fixed contractures and skeletal deformities will occur. So in order to prevent that, we may have to give a modality of treatment. In 1990, it was considered as a newer modality of therapy, but now it has become a mode of the therapy, that is the botulinum. And how does it act? Because it acts, botulinum is a toxin that acts at the neuromuscular junction, at the presynaptic junction, that produces a chemical denervation. The steps involved are, when you are injecting the botulinum toxin to the muscle, the botulinum toxin will come and then attach to the presynaptic terminal. Then it will go inside and will block. So it will internalize and then release from the vesicle, and that will block the release of acetylcholine. Thus, the synaptic function or a neuromuscular junction will be blocked. This leads to a chemical denervation, so that the nerve, you can see the neuromuscular junction has become inactive. But after some time, say up to 3 months to 6 months, there will be an additional sprouting of nerve terminal takes place. And because when this develops, and a new neuromuscular junction will develop. But this will take up to 3 to 6 months. So we can utilize this time for giving adequate physiotherapy, manipulation, splinting, etc. And with this, we are able to reduce the spasticity in a child, and we can help in mobility. So from 2000 to 2015, botulinum toxin, because this I have collected the study at 2015, was tried in spasticity, especially diplegic cerebral palsy, dystonic cerebral palsy, and hemiplegic cerebral palsy in 600 children with cerebral palsy. You can see that among them, 120 were hemiplegic cerebral palsy, 80 were the cerebral palsy of usual varieties. And then you can see that the maximum was for a diplegic cerebral palsy, so diplegic cerebral palsy. And then among them, the mean age group was 5 years, ranged between 2 to 12 years, as early as 2 years, and as late as 12 years, the botulinum toxin was used. And 400 of them had a spastic diplegia, and 120 had hemiplegia, and 80 had a quadriplegia with some amount of athetosis. And all were undergoing a physiotherapy program with monitoring of their baseline function status for 6 to 24 months before giving botulinum, because botulinum toxin will not be given in the beginning itself. Even if they are getting treatment from somewhere else and are being referred from different part of the world, we will be again waiting for minimum period of 6 months by giving adequate physiotherapy, so that we'll make sure that the patient gets improvement. And again, for selecting the patient, no fixed joint deformity should be present, and good range of movement and adequate power, because only spasticity and muscle weakness, then by reducing the spasticity, will be actually debilitating the patient. So in order to improve their function, what we do is, first of all, we make sure that their power is good. And out of these patients, 120 of them were ambulatory and 180 were non-ambulatory. Because ambulatory means because they'll be walking with the toe walking, crouch gait, or even with adductor spasm. All of them, and we can say that all of them had equinus deformity from calf muscle spasticity and or scissoring or hamstring spasm. And dynamic muscle strength was assessed by Tardieu scale for, Tardieu scale was used to identify the amount of spasm and the window whereby we can make sure whether the botulinum toxin will be effective or not. If there is a fixed contracture and this window is very minimal, then by giving a toxin, you will not get improvement. So what you do is, you see, sudden movement produces the dorsiflexion will give a movement, and that we take as the R1, and then you go into a increased pressure, and again the foot will go forward. So this range, the difference between R1 R2 is taken as the range whereby the botulinum toxin will act. If this range is good, then we can give similarly in the knee. Also, it is tested like this. And this is in another patient where the R1 see that there is a dorsal tendon spasm is there. When the more force is given, that spasm can be overcome. So this is definitely, it is a dynamic spasticity. So you can give a botulinum toxin. And what you do, so after assessing this, we give injection. So the injection method is a multi-level injection. Usually, if it is a hemiplegic cerebral palsy, the injection is given to gastrocnemius at 4 points. Soleus also additionally will be given 2 points. Medial hamstrings at 6 points. And if it is a diplegic cerebral palsy, usually I will be giving injection to the gastrocnemius and soleus, plus adductors also may be injected depending upon the amount of adductor spasm. And so this is how we give the injection to the calf muscles. You see the 4 points will be identified, one above and 2 above, 2 below, and these 2 are for the soleus injection. So laterally you give the soleus injection. So up to 3 units per kg is given, and 6, that means a total of 6 units per kg of botulinum toxin will be injected. And so that is when these are the patients when there is an equinus spasticity or equinovarus spasticity where the posterior tibial muscle injection, here the calf muscle injection is given. And then when there is a hamstring spasms, you can see that the hamstring injections are given. And then when there is adductor spasm, the adductors are given, because actually most of the cases I'll be using only the clinical assessment. There is no need, we were not looking for much of an ultrasound or a EMG studies, because spasticity could be assessed clinically and we can give injection. So in upper limb also we have given to number of patients, but that I haven't included in this collection. In 200 of these patients, a repeat injection was done out of 600, and up to 6 injections were given in some, and during period of 4 to 36 months. So even though up to 3 months the decrease in spasm will be there, but then the spasm will increase, and some, so you can see that some we have given injection from 4 to 36 months. And then the post-injection intensive outpatient rehabilitation with examination at every month for 1.5 years. Assessment will be done pre and post-injection via rating scales and by evaluation of walking and sitting ability. And this is one patient with the left hemiplegia with equinus. When pre-injection, he was having a very severe equinus deformity with the TS spasm. And then see, after the injection after injection, 6 weeks after injection, you can see that the spasm has come down. Actually, there is more planus, that is more of a hypotonia. And by 9 months, actually the spasm has not completely worsened, but the child is having a good function. And the advantage of giving botulinum toxin in such children is that because they are continuing walking, their effect will be maintained. And then in other patients, you can see that the mean follow-up time was 28 months. And post-injection, as I have mentioned, intensive physiotherapy, etc., were done. And the peak effect by 1 to 2 weeks in the majority. The effect lasted for 3 to 10 months in most of them. And then you can see that 3 to 4 multidisciplinary approach was utilized, where the 3 to 4 months of suppressed hypertonia post-injection temporary increase in physiotherapy, and there'll be, so that will maximize the effect of botulinum toxin. And then what we can do is you go for a day orthosis and night splinting. You can see that this patient was given an IFO, and he himself was using a night cocker splint, and he was able to achieve heel toe walking by 12 weeks of injection. And these are the baseline characteristics of the muscles where botulinum toxin was used. We can say right gastrocnemius, number of patients 84, left gastrocnemius, then the left hamstrings, right hip abductors, and then we can see the left hip adductors. So the range of movement also given here, and which are the joint movement we have studied, and the modified Ashworth scale that was used, and the findings before the injections. And after the injections also, the patients have the specific number of injections given. You can see that after the first injection and 6 injections, 5 patients were received gastrocnemius injections like that. And the dose also up to 4.2 units per kg per muscle was used. And this is the effect. You can see that equinus improvement in the equinus spasm, then popliteal spasm and adductor spasm. And see first follow-up and third follow-up definite improvement in power could be seen, because that is the best improvement was seen in equinus deformities, and then adductor spasms also has come down. And this patient had other effects also, like facilitation of the hygiene, reduction of pain, functional improvement, facilitation of the physiotherapy, and major improvement. You can see that up to 70% of patients had improvement in facilitation of the hygiene, reduction in pain. You see almost 100% had that good improvement in pain, especially when we had difficulty in doing physiotherapy. So functional improvement you can see, and motor movement improvement, up to 70% of patients had a improvement. So all children experienced decreased paucity, their functional status improved, and 120 non-ambulatory children becoming ambulatory with assistance, and 200 children with assisted ambulation becoming more independently mobile. And joint motion showed improvement in the range of motion as compared with the baseline. Finally, general ability to rise from the sitting position to standing also demonstrated improvement, and remote effects like improvement in drooling and swallowing ability also improved. So the happiness by which we can see how, say, this patient who was having a very severe toe walking after the injection and ankle foot orthosis, he demonstrated good, and now he has just completed his BSc examination. So that is the effect of a child with cerebral palsy who received injection with botulinum toxins. So these are the other the mean change in parameters, especially the spasm improvement, change in the Ashworth score, range of movement, and the change in Ashworth scores after the injection. Actually, I'm not going to the details of all these clinical data in this forum. So that means the range of movement continued to decline as a sign of contracture development in early patients, but later he will improve. And just say this is how we are assessing the before injection. You take the patient and try to see the amount of spasm. You see that is the first movement by which we try to, yes, that is T1, and then you give an increased force and T2, or R1 and R2, and that is the pre-injection dose infection. Again, this is a patient with a diplegia, and then you can see that next patient after the injection. I'll show you that and see, because, and here you can see that post-injection the spasm has come down, and there again you see there is very good improvement of the spasm. You can see the difference between the initial and this is just 1 month after. Actually, the date is also given the 26, and see the date that was 22/5. Okay. So you can see that improvement. So cough injection is useful for gastrocnemius. An injection at the tender Achilles for soleus gave better response for dynamic equinus. And hamstring injection with posterior knee splint or crouch gait. An injection of the adductors in severely involved children to improve seating. And though short-term effect was present, long-term range of movement decline as a sign of contracted development seen in those with poor effect. So this was also seen. So so far, because up to 2015, we used the bottom blocks in 600 patients and with a major improvement in more than 300 patients. I must thank once again for the organizers of Asia GCC Excellence Award Conference for inviting me to present my experience in Bolton dogs in the cerebral palsy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for sharing your kind support to the organization. Sharing a thank you memento on behalf of our HIGCC organization.
Okay, thank you. Let me take a photo.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Now we move on to our third respected speaker. And our third respected speaker is Dr. Angela Gnanadurai, President, the Society of Indian Neurosciences Nurses, and ma'am's topic is digitalization and future of neuroscience nurses in India. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon to you, and we are opting to be part of this program to discuss on digitalization and future of neuroscience nursing. This is 42 years the Neurological Society of India, which is 69 years old, and it has been an opportunity for us to work with NSI for so many years and meet every year for the Knowledge Fest. Nurses across India in that conference, and we have competitions on NeuroQuiz, neuroelectrocution, and also various type of discussions, case presentations, and to encourage them, prizes being awarded to the neuro nurses. I'm sorry there is a disturbance because I'm traveling. Coming to digitalization, digitalization is nothing new for neuroscience field. Health systems are experiencing dramatic changes associated with the digital revolution, with such developments having vast implications for users, developers, and researchers. The field of neuroscience is by no means a stranger to digital revolution, with many advances and contributions in the field of impacting and being impacted by advances in digital health. Next slide, please. And including technology-enabled learning in neuroscience, nursing education, and landscape of digital health is in relations and implications of neuroscience nursing voice words are not entirely clear. Further research is needed for good understanding and application. Next slide, please. The research areas which can be encouraged are multiple viewpoints on the field of digital health neuroscience that include but not limited to themes that address contributions of neuroscience, molecular, theoretical systems, cognitive brain-machine interfaces to digital health, distinction between digital health neuroscience and other related fields, presentation of digital health neuroscience-based interventions, and how digital health will contribute to a new generation of neuroscience. And how if surgery, can you hear me? Okay. And unified brain theory would improve digital health. 1 minute. Tony, okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Next slide, please. future of neuronursing and the concerns that need to be addressed. Nursing is called noble profession. It is not just treating, but giving comprehensive care to patient and family. As an occupation, only caring, but as profession, caring as well as curing is included. So neuronurses have proved time and again that they are extremely important fraction of health sector. Next slide, please. And full partners to medical professions, wherever they are. During this pandemic, neuronurses have worked day in and day out. They served patients with COVID-19, learned about the virus and nursing management. They became most preferred team members for doctors to plan, diagnose, treat, and evaluate the patients. Next slide. They helped several patients recover without severe complications. And I can assure the reason as the positive changes in the field of nursing through improved standard of education, training, nursing philosophy, vision, mission, value, code of ethics, technological and digital advancement gained from the field of neuronursing. Next slide, please. And it also with the improved education and foundation of knowledge is strengthened. It makes nurses to adapt new skills without facing any issues. With all these positive features, I see future of neuronurses are bright and progressive. Next slide. The concern that need to be addressed are there is massive shortage of nurses in India. Major reason is migration of nurses. Foreign countries give higher education, career advancement, more respect and better compensation than in India. Because Indians think nurses to be secondary or inferior profession to medicine. Next slide. There's a failure to understand that nursing walks alongside of medicine and surgery, and nurses too are highly educated and capable. The future of neuronursing will be bright only if future of the nation is bright. Next slide. I would like to conclude saying recent heavy use of disposable has damaged the environment because of the careless disposals. We cannot stop using them, but we can properly dispose them and avoid harm to environment. Neuronurses can make a difference in and impact if recognized, respected, and rewarded for being a hero at bedside or policy maker. I would like to tell few illustrations which really says that neuronurses have really improved in the field of neuronursing, and they are very important part of the healthcare team. In the high dependency area where the tertiary hospital where I used to be working, among 100 patients who had emergency craniotomy, 98% of them were identified by the nurses. And also the various social problems which are identified by the nurses. Also the various problems which could be various aspects of the patient care which can be identified and brought into the notice of the treatment plan has helped the patients to improve adequately. For example, we had a engineering student who met with an accident with head injury, and he was not coming out even after his GCS was, he was very drowsy even after he was shifted out from the ICU, and his parents were from North India. It was in North Tamil Nadu. So they were from North India, so they were traveling. And one of the nurses identified that he must be on some other medication. So he told his friend to go check in the room whether he has any medicine. So he went and rightly checked and brought some of the antidepressants what he was put on. So after administering those drugs with his case history being studied, and he improved a lot. By the time when the parents came, he was very much alert, and he was able to be, I mean, we could see the market improvement which is anticipated in him. And like that, another social aspect of the care, they are very alert and they know who is staying with them, because these patients are semi-conscious and sometimes unconscious, and social aspect also need to be cared for. And because there are family disputes and property disputes, and the nurses are oriented towards it. And one fine afternoon, one of the caregiver who went out to have lunch, telling the sister that she's going out, and another party came and said that was supposed to be the second wife of that man who was unconscious with stroke, and they came with stamp paper and stamp pad to get the impression for the property use. So that was identified, and rightly they were identified and caught, and through the security department they were handed over to the police. So those are the alert, those kind of alertness our nurses have, and it is very important that the self-empowerment of these nurses, and also having a dual role for the nursing faculty will improve the setup of the neuronursing. And digitalization plays a very big role, and more researches can be done to make it appropriate for the nurses to work with. Once again, I thank the organizers for giving me this chance, and I also enjoyed the other talk given by the other experts, and thank you very much. I'm looking forward working with you again. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I request the team to share a thank you memento, sharing a memento on behalf of Asia GCC team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Our next respected speaker is Dr. Rajiv K. Sharma, President, Indian Arthroplasty Association, and sir's topic is how digitization is transforming healthcare. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for this invite. And here I like to say that digitization is something very important for the healthcare. And how I say it is that, with digitization, a lot of new things have started. Say, for example, the remote ICU. Remote ICU is possible only because of the digitization. The records of the patients can be transferred very easily to the consultant sitting at a faraway location. And that probably is one of the biggest advantage to a sick person. There are lots of patients who do not, who are not able to be in the hospital, but at the same time, they need the attention of the specialist doctors. And as we know that the specialist doctors are not aplenty in our country. So a remote ICU is possible to be set up. And this remote ICU is possible only with the help of the digitization. In our routine practice, or day-to-day practice, say, for example, I'm an orthopedic surgeon and arthroplasty surgeon. The main advantage of our arthroplasty practice is that our patients who have been operated 10 years back, 15 years back, 20 years back, we can keep their records in a very easy way on our computers. We can keep it in the drives, and when the patient comes, just with the click of a button, we can take out the whole detail of the patient, how he has been operated and what was done, what implant was used, and how patient is doing now. So in arthroplasty situation, the first follow-up of the patient post-operative and the present one is very, very important, because the patients can have a lot of issues in the follow-up periods. And that is why if you have a record, it's a great advantage. for the surgeons and for the patient. Of course, this record keeping helps us in our education system also, in the continued medical education that we keep organizing, but also in the patient care. So this is a great advantage to our patient population, to our work, orthopedic work, and also for our general patients. See, for example, in today's time, a patient who has a ECG, some cardiac illness. Let us talk about it, something other than orthopedics. Somebody who has a cardiac illness and he has his all cardiac records in a digitized format in a drive or on his telephone, and he can, in a case of the emergency, his family can show that whole record in a minute to the treating doctor. So there is a lot of advantage of the digitization, and it has transformed healthcare in a very big way. I would invite some questions on this if the audience are willing to ask me. Thank you so much for this invite. Yes, Farheen.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for sharing your kind support with the organization.
Pleasure.
I request the team to share a thank you memento.
Thank you so much, Farheen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you so much, sir.
Pleasure. Yeah.
Our next award category is Women Healthcare Leader Award, Neurologist. And the award goes to Dr. Sita Jaya Lakshmi, Consultant Neurologist, Krishna Institute of Medical Sciences, Secunderabad. Congratulations, ma'am. Can we have few words from you, ma'am?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I am Dr. Sita Jayalakshmi, working as consultant neurologist from Hyderabad. I work at the Krishna Institute of Medical Sciences. I thank GCC, Asia GCC award organizers for choosing me for this award. And I'm glad to be part of this ceremony. And I thank all the jury members for choosing me for this important award. And thank you so much. And this is an encouragement
Thank you so much, Dr.
for
Many
all the
congrats.
healthcare workers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Many congratulations for the award.
Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Consultant Neurologist. And the award goes to Dr. Priyanka Tatir Mehta, Consultant Neurologist, Zenova Shelby Hospital, Mumbai. Congratulations, ma'am. Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Neurologist. And the award goes to Dr. Dinesh Udenia, Dean and CEO, Government Medical College, MP, Professor and Head Department of Neurology, GR Medical College, Gwalior. Congratulations, sir. Our next awardee is Dr. Mukesh Kumar, Associate Director Neurology, Max Super Speciality Hospital, Saket, New Delhi. Congratulations, sir. Our next awardee is Dr. Velmurugan Jayabal, Clinical Scientist, ICMR Nimhans, Institute of System Neuroscience and University Hospitals of Marcel Timone, France. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Yeah, thank you for the organizing team for the award. I would like to extend my whole dedication to my patients and my family and parents, and especially to my supervisors like Professor Sanjeev Sinha and Srikantan Nagarajan and Professor Satish Chandra, and to Dr. Mariappa, and also to sisters and to the patients. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Many congratulations for the award.
Thank you.
Our next awardee is Dr. K. Hemant Kumar, neurologist, Kurnool Heart and Multi-Speciality Hospital. Congratulations, sir. Our next awardee is Dr. Biplab Das, Director and Head, Neurology and Interventional Neuroradiology, Batra Hospital and Medical Research Center, New Delhi, Protomesta Clinic. Congratulations, sir.
Good evening, everyone. So, thank you very much for recognizing or giving this award, and I especially thankful the organizing committee and also our respected jury members for choosing me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Our next awardee is Dr. M. Pradeep, Senior Consultant Neurologist at Department of Neurosonology and Stroke, KG Hospital and Postgraduate Medical Institute. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the Asia GCC team for considering me for this award. Dr. Faheen and the rest of the jury members. I'm so happy and honored to be part of the group of people who have been awarded. And my special, it's been nice to be with all our neurology main people, Dr. Nirmal Surya, Mahendratta, Mohammed Kunyi, Angela, and of course the orthopedic this thing. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Many congratulations for the award.
Our next awardee is Dr. S. Meenakshi Sundaram, Senior Consultant Neurologist, Apollo Speciality Hospitals, Madurai, India. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir? Our next awardee is Dr. Mohan Nune, Senior Consultant Neurologist, Baby Memorial Hospital, Kozhikode. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Good evening, and I thank Asia GCC for this gesture and appreciate the kind jury members for considering me for this award, and I wish the team and all the awardees all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Our next awardee is Dr. Shankar Prasad Gorthi, Professor and HOD, Bharati Vidyapeeth Medical College and Bharati Hospital and Research Center. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Thank you very much, Asia GCC, for choosing me for this award. I also thank one more person, that is COVID-19, because during last 2 years, apart from the exemplary neurology care which we could give as a team, I also dwelled into the web series and I launched Neuro ePathshala to promote the academics. And thank you once again, Asia GCC, for recognizing me and my efforts towards neurology care and academics. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Our next awardee is Dr. L.K. Malhotra, Senior Consultant Neurologist, Malhotra Neuro Center. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Good evening, everybody. I thank Asia GCC as well as the jury members for considering me for this award. I am really honored and humbled for this award. I dedicate this my award to all my patients who reposed faith in me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Our next awardee is Dr. Om Prakash Prasad, Neurologist, Sri Sri Neuro Center, OP Neuro Cure Private Limited. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Very good evening to all, and thank you so much, organizers and the jury group, for considering me. And I felt really privileged to receive this award, and I promise that I will try to justify this award by helping more and more people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Our next awardee is Dr. Ajit Kumar Roy, Consultant Neurologist, Manipal Hospitals, Bangalore. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much, the organizers and the jury for judging for this award. I'm really privileged, and I thank you all for the effort. I'm very also thankful that you are organizing such a thing so that all the people who work, their work is recognized. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Many congratulations for the award.
Thank you, madam.
Our next awardee is Dr. Shanmugam Paranjyothi, neurophysician, Institute of Neurosciences, Pondicherry. Congratulations, sir. Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Orthopedic and Joint Replacement Surgeon. And the award goes to Dr. Karnav Panchal, Consultant Post-Injury Specialist, Consultant Arthroscopist and Joint Replacement Surgeon, Epic Hospital, Ahmedabad. Congratulations, Doctor. Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Pediatric Neurologist and Neurodevelopmental Specialist. And the award goes to Dr. Dipkanshu Das, co-founder, Institute of Neurodevelopment. Congratulations, sir. Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Pediatric Neurologist. And the award goes to Dr. Umesh Kalane, Pediatric Neurologist, Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital and Research Center. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Yeah, I'm very much honored. Thank you, Asia GCC committee for selecting me and honoring me with this award. I am very much honored because of this award. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Many congratulations for the award.
Thank you.
Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Neuro, Brain and Spine Surgeon. And the award goes to Dr. S.K. Rajan, Chief of Neurospine Surgery, Artemis Hospital, Gurugram. Congratulations, sir. Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Award, Neurosurgeon. And the award goes to Dr. Kadaki Satyavara Prasad, Professor and HOD, Neurosurgery, Andhra Medical College, Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Good evening to all the organizers at the jury committee for selecting me. I am working as a professor head of the department, Andhra Medical College, Andhra Pradesh, Visakhapatnam. So considering me, I am once again thankful to all of you.
Thank you so much, sir. Many congratulations for the award.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Our next awardee is Dr. Shaji K.R., Senior Consultant, Neurosurgeon, Aster MIMS Hospital, Kerala. Congratulations, sir.
Regarding
Can we have few words from you, sir?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I'm really honored and I'm very happy. And I thank all the organizers for choosing me for this prestigious award. Every award is a encouragement, and I hope this encouraged me for the future work. I'm going to do it. And I dedicate this award to all my teachers, all my colleagues, all my staff who worked with me, and especially all the patients whom I worked on to reach to this level. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Many congratulations for the award.
Our next awardee is Dr. Shyam Sundar, Neurosurgeon, Udayan Hospital, Patna. Congratulations, sir. Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Endoscopic Spine and Brain Surgeon. And the award goes to Dr. Pankaj Trivedi, Endoscopic Spine and Brain Surgeon, Basal Hospital, Jalandhar. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Rishika, and I'll be accepting the award on my father's behalf since he's still busy in the operation theater. I thank everyone for the appreciation and the award, and I wish everyone to have a very good evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Our next awardee is Dr. Shyam Sundar, neurosurgeon, Udayan Hospital, Patna. Congratulations, sir.
I thank the organizing committee for selecting me for the award. I am very much humbled, and every award gives you that confidence that the patient shows in you. And thank you very much for this award. And I will make sure I strive for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Many congratulations for the award.
Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Consultant Neurologist and Epidemiologist. And the award goes to Mohammad Shikauzam Bilal, Consultant Neurologist, Managing Director, SB Cardiology and Neuro Center. Congratulations, sir. Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Orthopedic and Endoscopic Spine Surgeon. And the award goes to Dr. Girish Datar, Orthopedic Surgeon, Minimally Invasive and Endoscopic Spine Specialist, Sushruta Hospital for Orthopedics and Traumatology. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and all the awardees. I would like to thank the organizers and the jury for selecting me as one of the awardee. Thanks a lot.
Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Neurosurgeon and Spine Surgeon. And the award goes to Dr. Muhammad Imran, Neurosurgeon and Spine Surgeon, Srikara Hospitals, Secunderabad. Congratulations, sir. Can we have few words from you, sir?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Imran. I work at Srikara Hospital, Secunderabad. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the Asia GCC Awards and the jury members for selecting me for this award. I'm extremely happy, honored, and humbled by this appreciation. This would help me in doing my work better and become more efficient day by day. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Many congratulations for the award.
Thank you.
Our next award category is Quality Healthcare Leader Award, Obstetrics and Gynecology. And the award goes to Dr. Shashilata Kabra Maheshwari, Senior Specialist, Department of Obstetrician and Gynecologist, Deen Dayal Upadhyay Hospital, Government of NCT, Delhi. Congratulations, ma'am. Can we have few words from you, ma'am?
Thank you. Thank you, Asia GCC, for selecting me for this award. And this inspires me more to work on and keep continuing work on safe motherhood. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Many congratulations for the award.
Our next award category is Iconic Healthcare Leader Award, Obstetrician, Gynecologist, and Infertility Specialist. And the award goes to Dr. Surya Malik, Director and Consultant, Fertility Vow, a unit of Jaspal Hospital and IVF Center. Congratulations, ma'am. In my line, I have always learned to end the event with a positive thought. No matter how hard involved tomorrow is a fresh opportunity to make it better. At the end, every step must affect forever. Maybe I had to inspire some more stars next year. With this now, we come to an end of this award ceremony and today's webinar. May I request Dr. Fareen Khan to do closing remarks.
Thank you to all the esteemed participants. It has been an honor to have you all present in our event. Your participation ensures the success of the event. Once again, I thank you everyone for all the kind support. I also like to thank Professor Syed for being a wonderful host for the evening. I would like to thank to our esteemed speakers and our gold partner and Energic Business Solutions and presenting partner of Pharma Global Management Services CEO and co-founder, Mr. Azharuddin Farooqi, for all the support and opportunity to work with. Last but not the least, to all the participants and the award winner, wishing you all a many congratulations. Hope to invite you soon again. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you so much, ma'am.